The moment the vampire saw his newborn's tiny, silver-glinting teeth, the truth punched through centuries of denial. He had rejected her, abandoned her, pretended the child wasn't his. But destiny has a cruel sense of humor, and bloodline never lies. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The Bronx never truly slept. Even in the dead hours before dawn, the city breathed, cars humming, sirens whining somewhere in the distance, streetlights flickering like tired sentinels fighting to stay awake. But inside Draven Estate, time moved differently. Shadows stretched longer. Silence held weight. The building pulsed with something ancient, something alive. Elena had noticed that the moment she stepped inside. Her first day on the job was like stepping into an alternate universe where gothic horror met billion-dollar luxury. She stood in the grand foyer, sneakers squeaking on polished obsidian floors, clutching her cleaning bucket as if it were a life jacket. A chandelier made of what looked suspiciously like carved bone hung overhead, shimmering with black crystal light. The walls rose impossibly high, covered in portraits of past Dravens. Men and women with cold eyes, rigid postures, and what could only be described as don't talk to me energy. It was unsettling, and kind of beautiful, and absolutely intimidating. Elena's reaction had been simple. Damn. She wasn't sure if she meant the mansion, the job, or the red-eyed ancestral paintings staring at her like she'd tracked mud on their legacy. Watch your language, an amused voice had said from the shadows. She jumped so high she almost dropped the bucket. From behind a marble pillar stepped Varek Draven, tall, pale, and unfairly handsome, in an eerie, untouchable way. His hair was long, dark, and groomed with a care that suggested either meticulous effort or supernatural perfection. His eyes, well, she had never seen eyes like that. Deep ruby, glowing faintly like dying embers. If danger had a face, it would look like him. The kind of danger you shouldn't be attracted to, but your hormones betray you anyway. He raised one brow. You must be Elena. She nodded too fast. Yes, sir. Elena Parker, reporting for duty. And I promise no more profanity. He walked around her slowly, observing her with a gaze that felt like a scanner. She resisted the urge to straighten her back. You added, sir, automatically, he noted. Sorry. There it is again. She blushed, and he smirked. It was a strange beginning. Over the next weeks, Elena learned two things. One, Varek Draven was the most intimidating man she'd ever met. Two, he was also the loneliest. Sure, he wore arrogance like a suit. He glided through his mansion as though he owned not just it, but the night itself. His voice dripped with sarcasm. His posture screamed superiority. And yet, when the staff left, when the sun dipped below the horizon, when the shadows thickened, she caught him sitting in silence. Alone. One night she found him on the staircase, elbows on his knees, head bowed. She almost turned around, not wanting to disturb him. But something about the angle of his shoulders, the heaviness, made her whisper, You good? His head lifted slowly, and she saw something in his eyes. Exhaustion. Not the exhaustion of a man who hadn't slept. The exhaustion of a man who had lived too long. You are different, he murmured. She shrugged. Yeah, people tell me that. Usually before asking me weird stuff. He snorted. A real laugh. Not the aristocratic, performative kind, but the involuntary, startled kind. That moment changed everything. She began noticing how he started lingering in rooms she cleaned, pretending to read or inspect something, only to ask meaningless questions like, Do you find this hallway drafty? Are you fond of citrus scent? Do humans always breathe that loudly? She responded with equal sarcasm. Only in haunted mansions. Yes, lemon is my favorite. I'll spray your office next. It's called being alive, Varek. He didn't need her for that either. She could tell she was messing with his carefully curated isolation. She also could tell he didn't hate it. And then came the stormy Friday. Lightning cracked the sky open like a jagged grin. Rain slammed against stained glass windows, and thunder roared through the estate like a warning. Elena was mopping the grand foyer when she saw him again on the staircase. Head in hands, cape slightly askew, hair a mess. "Rough night?" she said, leaning on her mop like it was a medieval staff of office. He lifted his head. His eyes reflected the storm. "You have no idea." She sat on the bottom step beside him, ignoring every rule pinned to the pantry door. "You ever thought about therapy?" He blinked. "What is that?" "It's when you talk to someone about your problems." He frowned. "Why would I do that?" "Well, you look like you've got a century's worth." "For centuries, actually." She laughed. "I stand corrected." He looked at her for a long moment. Long enough that the tension shifted. The air thickened. Something ancient stirred between them. Not hunger. Not malice. Recognition. And in the next second, everything changed. It wasn't supposed to happen. A vampire and a human? Forbidden. Dangerous. Ridiculous. Yet somehow inevitable. The next weeks were a blur of quiet conversations, near touches, stolen glances. He bought her a heater because she said his mansion was colder than a DMV waiting line. She caught him practicing drinking blood silently, so she wouldn't hear the slurp. He tried to smile more. She tried not to stare too much. One night, in a moment she never forgot, he confessed softly, almost ashamed. "I do not like being alone." She didn't have a rehearsed reply. She just placed her hand on his. And for a man who had lived through plagues, wars, and TikTok trends, that simple human touch broke something open. But the fragile balance shattered when the pregnancy came. At first, she thought she was imagining things, the cravings, the moon's pull, the occasional distortion in the mirror. But soon there was no denying it. Varric panicked. He didn't panic like a regular man. No pacing, no "oh my God," no spreadsheet budgeting. Vampire panic was silent, deadly, and cold. He recoiled emotionally, turned icy, retreated into his centuries-old denial. "It is not mine," he declared the moment she told him. Her heart cracked. "No, but you know." I said no. The way he said it sliced deeper than any fawn could. She tried again. He shut down completely. And that was how their thread unraveled. She left, and he let her. She told no one about the strange pregnancy. She worked at a diner serving pancakes and coffee to strangers who had no idea a half-vampire baby was growing inside her. She rode buses, shuffled through shifts, breathed through loneliness, hiding her fear under exhaustion and sarcasm. Until labor came. Hard, fast, violent. Lights flickered. Machines malfunctioned. Nurses fainted. Yes, plural. She gave birth at dawn. And when the baby opened his tiny mouth and the faint glimmer of silver teeth flashed beneath the gums, Elena knew with a certainty deeper than blood. He was Varric's son. She sent him one message. "You're his father. Come see him." He didn't text back. He didn't call. He simply appeared. Varric Draven, ancient vampire, aura thick enough to make doctors step aside. He burst into the room with a storm of fear, anger, denial, and something else he wasn't ready to name. And then the sunlight shifted. A beam cut across the baby's face. The glint of silver teeth appeared. Varric froze. Everything stopped. The baby hissed. The doctor screamed. The nurse fainted again. Someone dropped a clipboard. Elena sighed. "Yeah, welcome to my life." Varric looked at the baby again, fear morphing into awe. The ancient bloodline awakened in him. Recognition flooded his face. The truth tore through centuries of denial. He is mine, but the story was far from over. Because with recognition came responsibility. With responsibility came danger. And with danger came choices. Hard ones, the kind that shape destinies, and the kind that rewrite everything they thought they knew about love, fate, and the monsters in the dark. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic, sorrow, and something else. Something metallic. Something ancient. Something that didn't belong in a maternity ward, yet somehow reigned over it now like a storm cloud. Varric didn't move. For a creature who could cross continents with a single, silent leap, he stood utterly still. Frozen. Statuesque. Statues had more emotional range than him at this exact moment. The baby hissed again, this time more confident, like he'd discovered his superpower. HSSSSS. It echoed. Yes, echoed. Inside a room the size of a peanut. Elena, exhausted yet oddly triumphant, blinked up at Varek. There, she murmured softly. Now do you believe me? Varek's jaw flexed. His shadow stretched against the far wall, longer, darker, shifting unnaturally like a live thing. Midnight rippled around him, as though the sunlight dared not touch his aura anymore. The baby's tiny teeth glistened, like miniature shards of moonlight. Then the newborn sneezed. A soft, squeaky little sneeze, and a spark of blue light flickered from his mouth. Elena gasped softly. Again, Varek's eyes widened further, if that was even physically possible. His pupils were now thin vertical slits. Oh no, he muttered. Not that. Anything but that. You know what that is? Elena whispered sharply. Varek swallowed. For a vampire centuries old, swallowing was not something he did often, nor something he did well. But he tried. It's a trait, he said stiffly. A rare one. A very rare one. A very complicated one. Elena narrowed her eyes. Complicated how? Varek ran a hand through his hair, black, shoulder-length, annoyingly perfect. The type of hair that looked like it came with a personal team of stylists. Even now, stressed, pale, and confused, his hair shimmered like he'd just stepped out of a supernatural shampoo commercial. Complicated, he repeated, as in only shows up in the direct line of the crowned families. Crown, Elena said, her voice low. Varek nodded once. Royal, royal, Elena repeated, blinking slowly. Royal like castles? Or royal like political power? Or royal like sparkly crown emojis on Instagram? Ancient royal, Varek said through clenched teeth. Before castles. Before crowns. Before civilizations. Before air conditioning? Elena offered. Varek ignored that entirely. Possibly because he didn't know what air conditioning was. Vampires were notoriously bad with modern human comforts. They knew mansions. They knew blood. They knew drama. And apparently, they knew baby teeth. Elena held the child closer, her arm trembling from the weight of both fatigue and realization. So you really are, she murmured. Royal. Some kind of vampire prince. Varek scoffed. Prince? Please. My lineage surpasses. The baby hiccuped. Blue sparks again. Varek froze mid-monologue. Oh, dear gods, he whispered. He's not just royal. He's... The hospital lights flickered. One bulb overhead exploded softly, raining glass dust onto Varek's shoulder. He didn't flinch. He simply stared at the child in Elena's arms, as though looking into a prophecy. We need to leave, Varek said suddenly. Elena shook her head in disbelief. Now? I just gave birth 2 hours ago. Exactly why we must move. The energy signatures. I don't care about energy signatures. My spine is still on strike. Elena. No. Elena, listen. No. Elena. She shot him a look that could silence thunder. Varek, she said, voice low and steady. You left me alone for 9 months. You denied everything. You accused me of pulling some supernatural baby scam. And now that you believe me for half a second, you show up barking orders like you're king of the undead. Her eyes burned. I'm not your servant. I'm not your subject. And I sure as hell am not going anywhere until I understand what's going on. A long pause. Even the baby stared at Varek, blinking in judgment. Varek inhaled slowly, a gesture that looked almost painful. Elena, he said, you are in danger. She frowned. Explain. He hesitated. And that, more than anything, scared her. Ancient vampires didn't hesitate. They lunged. They threatened. They monologued. They brooded. They sparkled when they shouldn't. But hesitation? That was new. Elena, he whispered, stepping closer, lowering his voice. Our child, your child, is not just a vampire hybrid. He belongs to a bloodline that has not seen an heir in over 1,200 years. Elena blinked. 1,200? Yes. The baby hiccuped again. More blue sparks. Varek winced. And that is not normal. Define not normal. Varek sighed like a man who regretted his entire existence. He is what we call an Omega-born. Elena stared blankly. What? Omega-born, Varek repeated. A child prophesied to bring upheaval, to change the hierarchy, to— He looked away, jaw tight. To threaten the throne. Elena's eyebrows shot up. So, my baby is basically the vampire version of a political scandal? This is not a joke. The baby squeaked. Then he giggled. A tiny, adorable giggle. Varek and Elena froze again. The baby opened his mouth, and a thin curl of cold mist slipped out. Varek swore under his breath. Oh gods, he's manifesting early. Manifesting what? Power. Elena exhaled sharply, shifting on the bed. Her body was exhausted. Her heart was exhausted. Her soul was exhausted. And this Omega-born thing, she whispered. Does it mean what I think it means? That child, Varek said solemnly, will be hunted, tracked, contested, used. If they find him before he grows. They? Elena cut in sharply. Who's they? My family. He didn't say it dramatically. He didn't say it with flair. He said it quietly, which made it 10 times worse. Elena's stomach dropped. Your family, she echoed. Varek nodded. My siblings. My elders. The High Circle. The Coven of 12. The Royal Sentinels. The Bloodseers. The Nightborn Hunters. Okay. Elena said, holding up a hand. I get the point. A lot of people. Varek exhaled deeply. Yes. She swallowed. And they're coming here? Now. Possibly, he said. They would have felt the flare when he— The baby hiccuped again. Boom. The entire row of hospital lights flared neon blue, then burst into a cascade of sparks. Elena flinched. Varek rubbed his forehead. Yes, that is exactly what they will sense. From down the hall, a nurse screamed. A machine beeped wildly. A hospital assistant. What is happening to the electricity? Elena's heartbeat thudded. Fear. Pure fear. She wrapped her arms tighter around her son. Her child. The baby she carried alone. The baby she gave birth to alone. The baby she protected, nourished, defended, even when his father refused responsibility. Her voice shook as she spoke. And you expect me to trust you now? The question hung in the air like an execution bell. Varek stared at her, really looked at her. Not as a maid, not as a mortal, not as an inconvenience, but as the mother of his child. Elena, he said quietly, what I believed or didn't believe before was foolish. I know that now. She didn't respond. He took another slow step closer. Denying him was the greatest mistake of my existence. Elena blinked, tears pooling again. Varek continued, voice low. I was afraid. I've never fathered a child. Not once. Not in centuries. We cannot. Our kind does not reproduce easily. It is rare, dangerous, forbidden. His eyes glowed faintly, not menacing, more vulnerable. And when you told me, he said, I thought it was impossible. I thought you were mistaken, or manipulated, or confused, or lying, she said, bitterness sharp. Varek closed his eyes. Yes, I thought you were lying. I was wrong. Elena bit the inside of her cheek. Hard. Varek's gaze softened. But seeing him now, there is no denying it. He looked at the baby. Truly looked. He carries my power, Varek whispered. My legacy. My bloodline. My curse. All of it. The baby cooed softly. Varek's voice cracked. A tiny fracture, like glass breaking. And that makes him mine. Elena stared at him, searching, measuring. And for the first time, what she found wasn't the cruel, cold, regal vampire who walked through her life like a shadowed storm. She saw fear in him. She saw awe. She saw something else. Maybe love, maybe realization, maybe dread, but something real. She breathed out, slowly. So what now? She asked. Varek looked toward the door. Now, we leave this hospital, before my family arrives. How soon? Varek lifted his head. His eyes narrowed. They're already here. Elena's blood turned to ice. What? Varek moved fast, too fast for humans to track. He leaned toward her, voice clipped. Elena, listen to me carefully. His tone changed. Focused, commanding, urgent. Do not scream. Do not panic. Do not move. Hold him close. Elena clutched the baby tighter, heart pounding. What's happening? She whispered. Varek's gaze flicked to the hallway. His nostrils flared. They sent a scout. A scout. A tracker. A bloodseeker. They're fast. They're vicious. And they don't care who they go through to get what they want. Elena's breath hitched. But the hospital, there are people. Exactly, Varek said grimly. Collateral means nothing to them. Elena's heart raced. The room felt colder. The lights shimmered. The air thickened. Varek, she whispered, what do we do? He stepped to the door, shoulders straightening. His aura sharpened like a blade. First, he said, we protect our child. There it was. Not the cold royal. Not the arrogant night creature. Not the eternal bachelor who treated her like an afterthought. For the first time, she saw a father. Varek's voice deepened. Ancient, powerful, pulsing with authority. Second, he said, we make sure anyone who tries to take him regrets it. The door creaked. Varek turned. Elena held her breath. A shadow stretched across the floor. Long, thin, shivering. Then, thump. Something slammed against the far wall. A ripple of cold washed across the room. Varek's eyes glowed bright red. They're here, he said. And this time, even his voice trembled. The hospital hallway fell eerily silent. Too silent. Not even the usual chorus of newborn cries or nurses gossiping at the station drifted in. No footsteps. No alarms. Nothing but the distant hum of failing electricity. Elena felt the hair on her arms rise. The baby stirred, sensing the tension. His tiny face scrunched, a soft whimper escaping. Instinctively, she rocked him, whispering soothing nonsense words she herself didn't believe. Varek stood in front of the door like a living shield, tall, rigid, eyes glowing with a predator's focus. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He simply listened. Then the silence shattered. A scream, sharp and jagged, ripped through the hallway. Another scream followed. Then another. Elena's heart dropped to her stomach. Varek, stay back, he ordered, voice firm. But, stay back. The sharpness in his tone snapped her mouth shut. Something heavy dragged across the floor outside. Slowly, like claws scraping metal. Something primal and hungry echoed in the air. Elena swallowed. That's not human. No, Varek replied. It isn't. He turned his head slightly toward her, his eyes now glowing fully, vivid, burning crimson. Do not look at it. Whatever happens, do not look at it. Elena froze. Why? Because if you do, it will see you seeing it. And then it will want you too. A thin breath caught in her throat. Varek reached for the bed rail and, effortlessly, pulled the entire hospital bed several feet back, positioning Elena and the baby away from the door. She hadn't seen him move. One moment he was standing. The next, the heavy metal bed slid like it weighed nothing. He placed one hand on the wall, the other rising, fingers curling as if shaping the air around him. No matter what it looks like, he murmured, remember, it is not alive. It is not dead, and it is not merciful. Elena held the baby tighter. Her heartbeat was so loud, she was sure the creature would hear it through the walls. Then another sound, low, wet, a growl, too guttural to belong to anything human, followed by a rapid scratching, like something searching, sniffing, mapping the territory. Varek's muscles went taut. The scout is closer than I thought. What does it want? Elena whispered. Varek didn't answer immediately. Then, to confirm the air's presence. Her stomach twisted. And if it confirms? He exhaled sharply. It will summon the hunters. What? What kind of hunters? The kind who do not knock. The door handle rattled violently. Elena jumped. The baby whimpered. Varek didn't move. Another rattle. Harder. Then a slow turn. A click. A hiss. The handle slid downward, but didn't open. Varek had wedged something invisible against it. Not physical. A barrier. Shadows swirled around his fingertips, tightening like ropes. The creature on the other side snarled. A deep, hollow, broken sound. Elena squeezed her eyes shut. Varek, she whispered, how do we escape? You won't, he said simply. Her eyes flew open. What? You and the baby stay here. I'll lead it away. Absolutely not. Varek didn't look at her. Elena, I'm the only one it wants to kill. You, it will only track. Him. He nodded toward the baby. It will deliver. Deliver. Elena echoed, horrified. Deliver to whom? My brother, Varric said. To the throne. Elena's mind reeled. But I thought you said. I did. He would use the child. Raise him. Twist him into something monstrous. Something obedient. Varric turned slightly, eyes fierce. I will not let that happen. The door shook violently. Wham! Splitting a crack down its center. Elena gasped. The baby wailed. Varric's energy flared. Elena, he said, voice low, urgent. Promise me something. What? If I fall. You won't. If I fall. You won't. Elena. Her throat tightened. What? His eyes softened. Just for a moment. Barely. But she saw it. Run. Take him. Leave the city. Find a church on 89th and Melrose. Ask for Mother Inez. She will hide you. Elena's breath stilled. Varric. Promise me. She swallowed hard. I promise. The door exploded inward. Wood splintered. Metal twisted. Shards flew like shrapnel. And the scout, if it could even be called that, slithered inside. Elena screamed before she could stop herself. The creature was tall, thin as a shadow, its limbs too long, its joints bending backward. Its entire form seemed stretched and melted, as though sculpted from darkness and starvation. No eyes, just hollow sockets that pulsed with faint blue light. And its mouth split across its face like a cracked mask, rows of jagged needle teeth glistening. It sniffed the air. Once. Twice. Then it smiled. Elena's blood froze. Varric lunged. He moved like lightning, one moment standing still, the next striking the creature with a force that shook the room. They crashed into the far wall, plaster exploding in a burst of white dust. The creature screeched, a metallic shriek that sliced through the air. Varric slammed a hand around its throat. You dare enter my presence? He snarled. The creature writhed, lashing its claws across Varric's chest. Dark blood flowed, but he didn't flinch. Elena stared, heart in her throat. She'd seen Varric angry before, arrogant before, dismissive before, but never like this. This was primal, protective, terrifying. He radiated authority, darkness, rage, and something else she couldn't name. The creature opened its jaw wider, too wide, impossibly wide, aiming for Varric's face. Varric growled, revealing fangs. Enough. It lunged. He ducked. They collided again, slamming into equipment, shattering a glass cabinet, cracking tiles underfoot. The room filled with smoke, dust, sparks from broken lights. Elena shielded the baby, bending over him protectively. It's okay, love. It's okay, she whispered, though nothing was okay. Varric drove the creature to the ground, pinning it with his knee. But the creature twisted, bending like a rubber nightmare, slipping free and clawing at him again. It darted toward the bed. Elena's eyes widened. Varric blurred, literally blurred, and intercepted it mid-air. He grabbed the creature by its spine-like appendage and slammed it into the ground so forcefully the entire room shook. Do not touch them, he roared. The creature hissed, mouth split open, head rotating unnaturally. Then it spoke, in a voice that sounded like broken glass scraping metal. The air. Elena's breath dropped. The creature lifted its head toward her, smelling the air. Born. Varric's eyes burned like fire. You will not speak his name. Omega, the creature rasped. The Omega. Has. Varric drove his hand straight through its chest. A wet, sickening sound filled the room. The creature went still, limp, silent. Varric withdrew his hand, covered in dark, viscous liquid, and stood, chest heaving. Elena stared at him, not with fear, not with horror, but something complicated, something like awe. He turned to her, wiping the blood on torn fabric. We must go. Now. Elena hesitated. Varric, that thing. There will be more. Her pulse spiked. More? More of those. Yes, he said grimly. And worse. But what do we do about this one? She asked, pointing to the lifeless, twisted body. Varric glanced at it once. They'll smell its death. And find us. In minutes. Elena swallowed. Then we run. Varric nodded. Good. Hold him tight. He crossed the room and scooped her into his arms, gentle yet overwhelmingly strong. Elena gasped at the sudden motion. Hey, warn me before you do that. Apologies, he said, already stepping through the broken doorway. No time for courtesy. The hallway was chaos. Lights flickering, smoke drifting. Nurses unconscious, not dead, but fainted from shock. A crash cart overturned. A ceiling panel lying on the floor. Elena clutched the baby closer. How are we going to get past security? Past everyone? Past, oh God, the exit. Varric smirked, a dangerous curve of his lips. Who said anything about using the exit? Before she could argue, he leapt, straight upward, through the ceiling, through the next floor, and the next. Dust rained down. Elena screamed. The baby squealed. Varric was a blur of shadows and muscle and supernatural momentum. They burst onto the roof in seconds. The wind hit them hard, cold, sharp, alive. Elena gasped. Varric, hold on. Hold on to WH. He jumped. Off the roof. Into the night. Elena screamed at the top of her lungs. They fell fast, faster, impossibly fast. Then Varric's wings burst open. Huge. Black. Shadowy. Unfolding from his back like a living storm. Elena could barely breathe. Varric angled upward, lifting them into the night sky. The city stretched beneath them, lights flickering, sirens wailing in the distance, smoke swirling from the hospital rooftop. Varric, she cried over the rushing wind. Where are we going? Away from here. How far? As far as it takes. Elena clutched the baby, trembling. This is insane. Yes, Varric agreed, but necessary. As they soared above the city, Elena felt the first sting of realization. Her life, as she knew it, was gone. No more quiet mornings. No more normal days. No more pretending. No more denial. She was now at the center of a supernatural war. And her son, her innocent newborn, was the spark. As if sensing her fear, the baby whimpered, then released a tiny, glowing puff of blue mist. Ahead of them, Varric stiffened mid-flight. Elena, he shouted, voice urgent. Brace yourself. For what? He looked over his shoulder, eyes blazing. They're coming. The sky itself seemed to tremble. Varric's wings beat against the wind with thunderous force, slicing through the air as he carried Elena and the baby across the night-washed skyline of New York. The moon hung low, bright, and heavy, like a silver eye watching their every move. Elena clutched her newborn to her chest, heart pounding, mind spinning. This is insane. This is absolutely insane, she cried over the roar of the wind. Not insane, Varric shouted. Necessary. You keep saying that like it makes sense. Because it does. The baby let out a tiny hiss. Yes, a hiss, his storm gray gums flashing faintly. Varric's arms tightened around them, wings angling sharply as they veered left, soaring over the tops of skyscrapers. Below, car horns blared. People argued. Lights blinked in and out. New York was alive in all the wrong ways. Beautiful chaos, deafening noise, unbothered by the fact that somewhere above them, a 400-year-old vampire was carrying his human mate and their supernatural newborn like a gothic stork on caffeine. Elena's voice cracked. Varric, what's coming? He didn't answer, which terrified her more. His silence meant whatever it was wasn't good. A beating, a rumbling, a pressure against the wind. Elena felt it before she heard it. A thrumming vibration in the air, like a horde of wings cutting through the sky. She turned her head, slowly, afraid of what she would see. There, far behind them, a swarm, black, swirling, growing. Varric cursed under his breath. A language older than English, older than the city itself, sharp and cold enough to freeze bone. What are those? Elena stammered. Ravagers. That sounds exactly as bad as I think it is. It's worse. Oh, fantastic, love that. Varric's expression hardened. They're scouts bred from shadow. Mindless. Fast. Hungry. For what? For him, he said. Elena hugged the baby tighter, shielding him. The child let out a soft growl, his tiny fists curling, his unnatural eyes blinking open and shut as if he, too, sensed the danger. A gust of wind hit them from behind, powerful enough to jolt Elena sideways. Varek steadied them, adjusting his flight. "They're gaining," Elena whispered. "Yes. So fly faster." "I am. So fly faster, faster. I'm flying as fast as your fragile human body can withstand." "I am not fragile. I birthed a half-vampire." "Good point." Another gust hit them, this one deliberate, violent, carrying the scent of cold earth and death. Varek's jaw clenched. "They're close. Define close." A shadow streaked past them. Then another. Elena screamed. Varek jerked upward just in time to avoid a clawed appendage, slicing through the air where her head had been a moment earlier. Varek hissed, loud, furious, ancient, and the sound vibrated with power. The Ravagers shrieked back. They had arrived. Shards of shadow swarmed around them like a living storm. Dozens, no, hundreds of twisted shapes with skeletal wings, long claws, and gaping mouths filled with serrated teeth. They circled like vultures, closing in. Elena's pulse spiked. "Varek, what do we do?" "Hold on. No, seriously, what do we—" He tilted downward sharply. "Varek!" They dove. Straight down. Through clouds. Through cold air. Through an ocean of howling darkness. Ravagers swarmed behind them, shrieking, clawing, slashing at the wind. Elena clutched the baby so tightly she was sure she might squeeze him in a vampire juice. Varek angled right, dodging a creature that snapped its jaws inches from Elena's ear. Another lunge from the left. Varek swatted it away with a wing so forceful it cracked like thunder. The Ravager spiraled downward, screeching. But more came. Many more. "Varek, they're everywhere." "I know. Then do something." "I'm trying." "You're not trying hard enough." "Woman, please." This is not the time for polite tone. The baby hissed, almost in agreement. Varek's wings flickered, dimming for a split second, as though the darkness was draining him. "Varek!" Elena shouted. "Your wings." "I know. Why are they flickering?" "Because they can sense my power weakening." "Why is your power weakening?" He didn't answer. Her breath caught. "Varek, what aren't you telling me?" Another Ravager dove straight toward them. Varek twisted his body, taking the hit on his shoulder, then flung the creature aside with a growl. Elena saw the blood. Black, thick, dripping. "Varek, it's nothing." "That is not nothing. It's fine." "It is the opposite of fine." Elena, one Ravager, snapped its wings shut and launched itself upward, slamming into Varek's back. He faltered, just a fraction, but enough to spiral downward. Elena screamed. The baby howled. Varek roared, flaring his wings wide. The raw force of it knocked the Ravager off him, sending it tumbling through the air before it disintegrated into ash. But he was breathing hard. Too hard. Elena stared at him, panic blooming. "Varek, how much blood did you lose back in hospital?" He didn't answer, which meant too much. "Varek, hey, look at me." His eyes flicked toward her, red, dimming, fighting to stay focused. "Elena," he said quietly, "if I fall." "You won't." "If I fall." "You won't." "Elena." His voice cracked. "Protect him." A tear slid down her cheek. "I will. But you're not falling. Not today. Not ever." The Ravagers shrieked, closing in, encircling them in a spiral of shadow and hunger. Elena felt the pressure in the air shift. The darkness thickened. The sky dimmed. The swarm pulsed. They were preparing to strike together, to overwhelm him. "Varek, move." He tried, but the air thickened even more, like invisible hands crushing them. He flapped his wings. Nothing. Again, nothing. A third time. They didn't move. Elena gasped. "Varek, why aren't we flying?" "They're freezing the wind." "What?" "They're using dark pressure, manipulating the currents." "We're sinking." Indeed, they were drifting downward, slowly, helplessly like trapped insects caught in sticky air. The Ravagers formed a circle around them, tightening. Elena gripped the baby. The baby bared his gums, tiny sharp gleam shining. The swarm shrieked louder, sensing the air, the Omega. Closer, closer, closer. Elena closed her eyes. "This can't be it," she whispered. And then everything stopped. Sound, wind, light, time. The Ravagers froze mid-air, wings spread, jaws open, eyes glowing like dead embers. Elena blinked. What just happened? A voice. Calm, cold, detached, ancient. Enough. The word cut through reality like a blade. The Ravagers shuddered, then collapsed into ash. Every single one. Elena stared, stunned. Her brain refused to process what she had just seen. They didn't die slowly. They didn't die violently. They didn't even die naturally. They simply, unmade. Varric turned slowly. His face was pale. Too pale. His breath shallow. Too shallow. His eyes widened. Not in fear, but in recognition and dread. A figure hovered before them, floating without wings, supported by nothing. Tall, pale, elegant, regal. White hair cascading past his shoulders like cold silk. Clothes dark as night and stitched with threads of silver. Eyes glowing with an icy blue light that felt like winter had been carved into a person. He was beautiful in a way that made the world feel smaller and terrifying, in a way that made the heart stop. Elena felt her soul shrink. Varric, who is that? Varric swallowed, voice hoarse. My brother. The figure stepped closer. A perfect, chilling smile unfurled across his face. Little brother, the stranger said, you've caused quite a mess. His voice was velvet over steel. Smooth, dangerous, immortal. Varric stiffened. Armand. Armand's smile deepened. And yet, you have something I want. His gaze drifted to Elena, then to the baby. Then he inhaled, slowly, deeply, and his eyes gleamed with hunger. Ah, he murmured. The air. Elena flinched. The baby hissed. Varric bared his fangs. You will not touch them. Armand chuckled. On the contrary, he purred. I think I will. Elena's entire body went cold. Varric stepped forward, shielding them with his wings, voice deep, booming, trembling with fury. You will not take my son. Armand tilted his head, amused. Then fight me. Varric's wings faltered. His breath caught. His legs shook. Elena's heart dropped. Varric was in no condition to fight. But Armand didn't care. He extended one hand, the faintest gesture, and the sky rippled. You've run long enough, Armand whispered. It's time for a reckoning. And with that, the city lights below flickered. The wind screamed. The moon dimmed, and the night opened like a wound. Armand advanced. Varric braced himself. Elena clutched her baby, and the prophecy unfolded. The baby's hiss, soft yet ancient, echoed in the sterile hospital room long after the sound had died. Elena's grip tightened around the child as Varric stepped closer, his eyes glowing faintly like embers caught in a gust of wind. For the first time since he'd stormed into the hospital, his posture shifted, not in dominance or arrogance, but in something rawer, something older, recognition, fear, awe. He extended a hand, halting just inches from the baby's tiny face. His fingers trembled, the same fingers that had crushed centuries-old relics, torn through metal doors, and drained men twice his size without hesitation. But now they trembled. Elena's voice was barely audible. Careful. Varric shot her a glance, a flash of defensiveness flickering through his eyes. I'm not going to hurt him. You almost hurt me, she muttered under her breath. He ignored that, or pretended to. The baby stared at him with impossible stillness. His pupils were too dark, too large. His skin, soft and newborn warm, held an undertone of something moonlit. His breathing was eerily calm, almost like he didn't need to breathe at all. Varric swallowed hard. Elena, he said slowly, each syllable shaped by disbelief. He's mine. Yes, she whispered. I know. Silence stretched. Then the baby opened his mouth again, tiny gums parting to reveal the faintest rims of budding razor-sharp fangs, pearlescent, with a shine that shouldn't exist in daylight. Varric exhaled a sound that wasn't quite human. He's a night-born, he murmured. Elena blinked. A what? Varric straightened, squared his shoulders, and turned his back to her. He didn't answer immediately, which was classic Varric behavior. He loved dramatic pauses. He'd probably sprinkle them into grocery lists if he ever actually wrote one. Finally, he faced her again. A Nightborn, he repeated, voice deeper. Not just any vampire child. One born under dawnlight. A rarity. A threat. A miracle. He paused, then added with a note of caution, a hungry miracle. As if on cue, the baby began to wiggle. Not cry, wiggle. His tiny fingers curled, uncurling with uncanny precision. His eyes flickered from Varric to Elena and back again, assessing them with unsettling intelligence. Then the baby sniffed. Sniffed, like a tiny supernatural bloodhound searching for his first snack. Varric stiffened. He smells it. Smells what? Elena asked nervously. The baby's gaze settled firmly on Varric's exposed wrist. Elena's jaw dropped. Oh my God. Does he want? Yes, Varric said grimly. Blood. The baby opened his mouth again and hissed. Louder this time. Elena yelped. He's hungry. We need a bottle or something. Varric shot her a look of pure, ancient vampire offense. He cannot be fed with hospital formula, Elena. This is a night-born infant, not a chubby mortal baby with a bib and a burping cloth. Okay, she snapped. So what do we do? Do night-born babies come with instruction manuals? Do I need to boil anything? Do I need holy water, even though he's unholy? I don't know how to do this. Varric's face softened surprisingly. Calm down. Don't tell me to calm down, she barked. She sounded like a mother. She was a mother. Varric inhaled through his nose, sharp, steadying, then rolled up his sleeve. The vein in his wrist pulsed like something alive. He extended his arm toward the baby. Wait. Elena said, panicked. Is that safe? Varric smirked. For him? Yes. For me? Well, I'll heal. The baby's eyes glowed faintly, like midnight stars awakening. Then, lightning fast, tiny hands latched onto Varric's wrist, and he bit. Not deep, not enough to harm, but enough. Elena flinched. Oh, Varric hissed, not from pain but from the shock of it. The baby suckled quietly, peacefully, like this was the most natural thing in the world. The room felt still, sacred, strange. Varric watched his son feed, breath uneven. Elena watched Varric watching their child, something fragile and unexpected blooming in her chest. After a moment, the baby released his grip, yawned, and settled against Elena's arm, content. Varric stared at the tiny creature. He drank from me, he murmured. Yes, Elena said. That means Varric swallowed. He accepts me. He looked up directly at her. Elena's pulse stuttered. Something ancient and binding passed between them. Not romance, not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement, responsibility, a thread of fate they could not unravel. Varric broke eye contact first. We need to leave. Now. Elena blinked. The doctors can't know what he is, or what we are. Varric, I just gave birth. I can't exactly sprint out of here with a newborn. He frowned, then moved to the window. It was bolted shut. He tore it open with one hand. The metal shrieked. Elena's eyes widened. You okay? Subtlety just died a painful death. We don't have time for subtlety. He extended his arms. She stared. No. Absolutely not. You're not vampire swooping me out of a hospital window. You want the front door? He asked. You want to walk past cameras, nurses, security, and a janitor eating Cheetos at 7 a.m.? Elena hesitated. Varric raised an eyebrow. Predatory, impatient, annoyingly attractive. Fine, she muttered. But if you drop me, I swear I'll haunt you. He offered a rare smirk. Promises. He lifted her, surprisingly gently, cradling mother and child with the ease of someone who'd once carried entire bodies without breaking a sweat. Hold on, he murmured. She did. He leapt. For a heartbeat, they were airborne. The city stretched below them like a crimson and gold tapestry. Wind rushed past her ears. The baby slept, and Varric landed silently on the roof of the adjacent building. Elena exhaled. Okay, that wasn't so bad. A beat. He jumped again. She screamed. I take it back. It's bad. It's very bad. Varric only laughed. Actually laughed. It was the first time she'd ever heard him laugh. A real one. Not the cold, mocking one he used when tormenting enemies or insulting waiters. This laugh was warm, startled, almost human. By the time they reached the shadowed alley behind the hospital, Elena's face was wind-burned, her heart pounding, her hair violently rearranged by gravity. Varric lowered her gently. "Your first flight," he said softly. "You handled it well. I screamed half the time. And yet," he murmured, "you trusted me." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. He held her gaze a moment longer, then turned toward the deep shadows of the alley. "Come. There's a safe place we can go." Elena hesitated. "Where?" He looked back at her, eyes glowing faintly. "To my world." She clutched the baby tighter. "Our world now," he corrected. Elena's heart fluttered. Fear, fury, awe, and some emotion she refused to name. "Let's go," she whispered. Varric stepped into the darkness. Elena followed. Behind them, the baby cooed softly, then let out a tiny, satisfied hiss. The first hunger was sated, but the real hunger, the one that would shape their lives, was just beginning. The alley swallowed them whole. Elena followed Varric through a maze of narrow passages and broken brick walls until New York City felt like a distant memory. The air shifted, cooler, heavier, vibrating with something ancient and unseen. Even the baby sensed it. His little head bobbed as he turned toward the darkness like he recognized it. Varric paused at an unmarked door at the far end of the alley. It looked pathetic, chipped black paint, rusted hinges, graffiti scribbles. A door so forgettable, no sane person would ever bother opening it. Elena raised an eyebrow. "This is your world's entrance?" Varric smirked. Even monsters appreciate irony. He pressed a hand against the wood. The door moaned, then cracked, then dissolved, like ink bleeding into water. A cold gust blew out from the void behind it. Elena shivered. "Is that normal? For humans?" "No," he said. "For Nightborn?" "Yes." He stepped through. She followed slowly, cradling the baby tighter. The darkness swallowed them, then spat them out somewhere else. The space they entered resembled a mansion swallowed by night. Shadows clung to the walls like living things. Candles flickered in iron sconces, casting golden and crimson glows that stretched impossibly long across the floor. But the strangest part? The place seemed to breathe. Walls pulsed faintly like lungs expanding and contracting. Elena froze. "Is the house alive?" "Alive," Varric confirmed. "But don't worry. It only eats unwelcome guests." "Comforting," she muttered. A shimmering silhouette drifted near the ceiling. Wispy, elegant, humanoid. Its eyes glowed violet, shifting like smoke. Elena gasped. "What is that?" Varric didn't even look up. "A shade. They help maintain the wards. They are harmless, unless you insult their interior design choices. Then they sulk for days." Elena stared at him. "You're joking." The shade drifted closer, glaring at Elena's hair like it disapproved of her styling choices. Elena whispered, "He's not joking." The shade hummed disapprovingly and vanished into the ceiling. Varric continued walking. "We must get him settled." Elena looked down at the baby. He was awake, alert, eyes gleaming like tiny obsidian mirrors. Then she noticed something that made her freeze. His shadow. It moved independently. It didn't mimic their steps. It stretched, reaching for darker corners of the room like a curious cat, playful yet unsettling. Varric saw her staring and answered before she asked. "Nightborn shadows move on their own. You'll get used to it." "I doubt that." "You will." The house creaked, almost as if agreeing. Varric led her into a large chamber covered in ancient tapestries and deep, upholstered furniture. The walls were decorated with carved symbols, swirling patterns that seemed to pulse with quiet energy. A chandelier, made of twisted silver, hung overhead, dripping with black candles whose flames burned blue. On the center table stood a silver cradle lined with midnight blue velvet. Elena blinked. This was waiting centuries, Varric said simply. Prepared for the moment my bloodline continued. She turned to him slowly, one eyebrow raised. "So you plan to have a baby at some point?" He hesitated. Well, planned is a strong word. The baby hissed at him judgmentally. Varric pointed. See? He agrees it wasn't planned. Elena rolled her eyes. You couldn't plan your way out of a paper bag. Hush, he said, tapping the cradle. Lay him down. She did so gently. The baby settled into the velvet, wriggled once, and then stretched contentedly. His shadow stretched too, curling around the cradle's edges like a protective pet. Varric stood beside her, watching with a strange tenderness she wouldn't have believed possible a day ago. What's his name? Elena asked. Varric turned to her. You choose. Her heart squeezed unexpectedly. Me? Yes. He is half human. His voice softened, and I denied him. You did not. Elena swallowed hard. She hadn't expected that. She looked at the baby, tiny, strange, impossibly beautiful, then whispered Elias. Varric repeated the name, tasting it. Elias Varrickson. No. Elena corrected quickly. Elias Elena. No, wait. Elias Hayes. My last name. Varric arched an eyebrow. Hayes. Yes. Hayes. Deal with it. Varric considered, then nodded. Elias Hayes. He smirked. It suits him. Elias hummed in his sleep, shadow curling protectively. The house hummed too, as if acknowledging the name. As Elena stepped back, she realized something else. Her body felt strange. Tired, yes, but more than that, buzzing, like every cell was being rewired. She grabbed the edge of the cradle to steady herself. Varric caught it instantly, the shift, the subtle tremor. You feel it, he said. She froze. Feel what? His eyes narrowed with concern. The afterbirth bond. The what? Varric approached her slowly, cautiously, as though she were fragile glass. When a night-born child drinks from the father, he explained, it binds him, and the mother as well. The bond resonates, strengthens, connects. She blinked. Are you telling me I'm linked to you? He nodded once. A pulse shot through her body. Her vision blurred for a moment, shimmering with faint red hues. Her ears sharpened. She could hear the house breathing. She could hear Varric's heartbeat. Not human, not steady, but ancient and rhythmic, thrumming beneath his skin like a drum. She could hear Elias dreaming, soft, tiny sighs echoing like musical notes. Elena swayed. I don't feel like myself. Varric steadied her shoulders. You'll adjust. Slowly. What's happening to me? A shift. Am I turning into a vampire? Is that what's happening? Oh my God. Am I going to crave blood? Am I going to hiss at people? Sacred garlic. Do I need to worry about garlic? Varric almost laughed. You'll not turn. Not fully. Define fully. You will remain human. Mostly. But the baby's bloodline has influence. She stared at him. So, I'm part vampire now. He tilted his head. Heart connected. That means nothing, Varric. He offered a half smile. Then allow me to rephrase. You are safe. You won't sprout fangs overnight. Probably. He raised his hands defensively. I've never had a child with a human before. She groaned. Great. Wonderful. This is fine. Everything is fine. The house pulsed once like a heartbeat. Elena glared at it. And stop breathing like that. It's creepy. The candles flickered in response. Elias's shadow hissed. Varric smirked. He likes you. Fantastic. A sudden crash echoed in the distance. A loud one, deep within the mansion. Varric's entire demeanor changed in an instant. Eyes narrowing, posture stiffening, predatory energy flooding his aura. Elena felt it too, somehow, in her bones. Danger. What was that? She whispered. Varric's voice dropped low. They know he exists. Who? Those who wanted the night-born lineage to die with me. Elena's heartbeat skyrocketed. Enemies? Ancient ones. The baby stirred. Shadows rippled across the room. Elena grabbed the cradle instinctively. What do we do? Varric stepped forward, his eyes glowing bright as moonlit silver. We protect him. From what? She asked. Varric's voice came out like a growl. From the ones who will kill him to destroy me. Another crash. Closer. Elias stirred again, eyes snapping open, glowing faintly. Varric lowered himself into a ready stance. Elena swallowed hard. This was no longer a secret world. This was a battlefield. waiting to ignite. A new chapter of their fate unfolding. Dangerous, dark, and inevitable. The house exhaled, and the real threat stepped into the shadows beyond the door. The intruder's presence wasn't loud. It was heavy, like the air itself thickened to announce danger. A low rumble rippled through the floors of the breathing mansion, shaking the candles until blue flames flickered wildly. Elena instinctively pressed one hand against the cradle where Elias lay, her body forming a shield. Her heart hammered like fists on a locked door. Varric's hand lifted, signaling silence. And in that moment, the entire house obeyed. The walls stopped pulsing, the chandelier still mid-sway. Even the shadows froze, coiled tight, like black serpents waiting for orders. "Stay behind me," Varric murmured. Elena whispered back. "That seems like the least helpful place to be if someone wants to kill you." "Exactly," he said dryly. "I am harder to kill." A slow, deliberate scraping sound dragged itself across a distant hallway. Then another. Then silence. Elena whispered, "Are they crawling?" "Yes," Varric said. "Spider-like. But larger." "Oh good," she breathed. Because normal spiders weren't already nightmare fuel. Elias, impossibly calm, stretched his little fingers toward the sound, his shadow stretching farther. Unnaturally far, slithering along the floor, as if scouting. Varric watched the infant's shadow. He senses them. The baby gave a soft hiss, tiny but fierce. The intruder's presence grew closer. Closer. Until, thud, a sharp crack appeared on the far wall. A claw pushed through. Long, skeletal, glistening with black ichor. Elena's breath seized. A second claw ripped through beside the first. Then a face pushed through the broken wall, gray-skinned, eyes glowing blood red, mouth gaping with fangs jagged like broken glass. A night shredder. Varric whispered one word, low and lethal. "Run." Elena didn't need instruction twice. She scooped Elias from the cradle and bolted toward the opposite door. But more claws smashed through the walls on either side of them. The mansion wailed like a wounded beast. Shadows plunged down from the ceiling like defensive tendrils, trying to wrap around the intruders. Elena froze in horror as three creatures crawled through walls, bodies twisting unnaturally, long limbs, boneless movements, flesh like melted wax, faces split down the middle, a hiss that sounded like broken violins. Varric stepped between Elena and the night shredders, cloaks swirling around him like liquid darkness. His eyes ignited silver. "Back," he said, not to Elena, but to the creatures. They didn't obey. In fact, they shrieked and lunged. Varric blurred. One moment he stood still. The next, he ripped one creature's head clean off. Elena screamed. The headless creature still tried to crawl forward. Elias hissed, louder now. Shadows from the walls lashed out like whips, smashing into the other two creatures, tossing them backward. But they didn't stay down. Night shredders never stayed down. Their limbs reattached. Bones snapped back. Faces reformed. And their hissing intensified. "Go!" Varric roared. Elena sprinted, clutching Elias tight against her chest, dodging falling debris and cracking walls. The mansion twisted its hallways to help her, doors shifting position, stairs stretching into bridges, floors smoothing into pathways. But the intruders weren't just after Varric. They wanted the baby, the heir, the continuation of the line. Elena turned a corner and froze. A night shredder stood there already waiting. How'd it get there so fast? Its neck elongated like a serpent. Its jaw split open wider and wider until it reached its ears. Elias hissed again, and something dark shot from his shadow onto the floor. The creature halted in confusion, then screamed. Its shadow was being devoured. By Elias's shadow. Elena stared. What is he? Is he eating it? The baby giggled. Varric appeared behind the creature like a lightning strike and crushed its skull in both hands. The body collapsed. The shadow did not. It was gone, absorbed into Elias's own. Varric's expression was half shock, half awe. "He has the gift," he whispered. "The what?" Varric didn't answer. He didn't have time. A larger crash sounded. A section of ceiling fell inward. A night shredder, twice the size of the others, descended, limbs splayed like a monstrous spider, jaws snapping. Elena stumbled backward. Varek hissed, a deep, ancient sound that vibrated the entire mansion. The creature shrieked and lunged for Elias. But Varek moved faster. In an explosion of motion, Varek pinned the creature to the wall, hand plunged into its chest, ripping through flesh and bone. Black ichor sprayed across the walls as he tore out its pulsing dark heart and crushed it like rotten fruit. The creature fell limp. Varek turned, chest heaving. Elena, run! She ran again, but the hallway suddenly split open beneath her feet. A fissure cracked across the floor, and darkness yawned underneath. The house was losing power. Elena screamed as the floor gave way. Varek dove toward her, arms outstretched, but she fell through the darkness. She landed hard, not on stone, not on wood, but something soft and alive. It writhed under her. She scrambled away, clutching Elias. The room she had fallen into was huge, circular, red-black walls pulsing. It felt like being inside the belly of a beast. It was the mansion's heart chamber. She had heard Varek mention it, once, only once. A chamber that nourished the Nightborn fortress. But something was wrong. Shadows swirled in violent patterns. The air crackled with static. And at the center of the chamber stood something worse than night shredders. A man, tall, elegant, pale as moonlight, eyes as black as bottomless wells, hair silver white, clothing immaculate, tailored dark suit, gloves, polished shoes. A gentleman on the outside, a monster on the inside. Elena's blood froze. This was no mindless creature. This was a Nightborn elder. He smiled slowly. "Hello, Elena Hayes," he said, voice smooth as velvet and sharp as broken glass. "And here is the child who should never have been born." Elias clung to her collar. Elena's voice came out trembling. Who are you?" He bowed with refined menace. "I am Varos, brother to Varek, firstborn of our line." Her throat tightened. "You're his brother?" "Older brother," he corrected. "Wiser brother. The one who understands that our bloodline must end." Elias hissed again, loud this time, and his shadow unfurled violently from behind him. Varos chuckled. "A delightful abomination, but dangerous to us all." Before she could move, Varos stepped forward in a blur of motion, too fast for her eyes to follow. He reached toward Elias, fingers clawed. A blast of pure shadow erupted from Elias's body, slamming Varos backward into the wall. Varos snarled. Impressive. He vanished, then reappeared behind Elena, hands reaching for her neck. She spun just in time, clutching Elias close. Varos's breath brushed her ear. "Give me the child." "No," she choked out. "You cannot protect him." "I can try." "Your life means nothing." "It does to him." Something shifted in Varos's expression. Then he struck toward the baby again, and Varek crashed into the chamber like a meteor. His fist connected with Varos's jaw. Varos flew across the chamber, smashing into a pulsating wall. Varek roared, voice shaking the whole mansion. "You will not touch them." Varos stood, straightening his suit casually. "Little brother, you have gone soft." Varek's eyes glowed silver fire. "And you have gone mad." Varos laughed. Madness is clarity without restraint. They clashed. Monstrous speed, ancient strength, centuries of rivalry, exploding like thunder. Elena backed against the wall, clutching Elias as the brothers tore into each other with ferocity beyond anything human. Claws, fangs, shadow magic, bone-crunching strikes. The mansion shook. Varos dodged a punch and taunted. "You deny our destiny." "Our destiny changes tonight," Varos snarled. "The Nightborn must not dilute." Varek retorted. "He is the future." Varos pointed at Elias, eyes blazing. "He is the end." Varek slammed him into the floor. "No, you are." The ground split under the force of their battle. Elias's shadow stretched toward them, swirling, reaching, absorbing every broken shard of darkness, every fragment of malice, every whisper of agony, as though the child were claiming ownership of the fight. Varos saw it too late. The shadow wrapped around his ankle. He froze. What? The shadow jerked him downward. Varos tried to break free, but the infant shadow was stronger. Impossible. It dragged him toward a fissure opening in the floor, toward darkness deeper than any realm. Varos screamed. Varric stepped back, shocked. The shadow swallowed the elder whole. Silence. A heavy, bone-deep silence filled the chamber. Elena stared at Elias. Varric stared at Elias. And Elias burped. A tiny, innocent burp. Then giggled. Elena whispered, Did our baby just banish your ancient brother to shadow hell? Varric exhaled shakily. Yes. Without even crawling? Yes. Should we be worried? Varric swallowed. Deeply. Elias yawned and fell asleep. The flickering walls calmed. The mansion steadied. The darkness settled. And the remaining shadows bowed toward the infant. Recognizing him. Accepting him. Claiming him. Varric approached slowly. The Nightborn world will never be the same. Elena nodded, trembling but resolute. Good. She kissed Elias's forehead. Let the world change. Varric's expression softened as he looked at them, mother and child together. And for the first time in 400 years, he knew exactly where he belonged. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you'll surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.